Welcome to Understand the Math. In this video, I'm going to teach you all about how to solve quadratic equations by completing the square. I'll walk you through 4 example problems of increasing difficulty, and for each of these problems, we'll carefully walk through 4 steps that will make each equation easy to solve. Let's get started. The first problem that we're going to solve by completing the square is the problem x squared plus 6x plus 8 is equal to 0. The first step to complete when solving a quadratic equation by completing the square, I've listed right up here, is to move the constant term c to the right-hand side. Let's go ahead and let's do that. Our first step is to write our equation as x squared plus 6x, and then we'll take our constant 8 to the right, and that becomes minus 8. Our second step is to divide both sides of the equation by a if a is not equal to 1. In this example, a is equal to 1, so we'll just write not applicable. And let's move on to step 3. Let's look back above. Step 3 says that we are to complete the square. On the right, in green, I've written down the formula for completing a square. You don't need to memorize this formula, but I think it helps to look at it when you're doing these types of problems for the first time. Notice that our left-hand side is x squared plus 6x. This is the same thing as x squared plus dx. And then on the right, we have a constant. In order to complete the square, what you do is you take your middle term, which is d, or in our case is 6, and you're going to divide it by 2 and square it, and you're going to add that to both sides of the equation. So let's do that. The constant in our middle term is 6, so we're going to take 6, and we're going to divide it by 2 and square it. And then whatever we do to the left, we have to do to the right. On the right, we have a minus 8, and we're going to have to also add 6 divided by 2 quantity squared. Let's now do some simplification. This is x squared plus 6x. 6 divided by 2 is 3, so we're going to write this as 3 squared. And then on the right, we have a minus 8, and we have a 6 divided by 2 again. 3 squared is 9. Notice that on the left, I wrote 3 squared, but on the right, I wrote 9. There was a reason for that. When we complete the square, we're going to have to write the left-hand side as a perfect square, so it helps to have that 3 there, because our perfect square is going to be x plus 3 quantity squared. And then on our right-hand side, it's helpful to write it as 9 because we have to combine those constants, and that equals 1. And that's how to complete the square. Let's look up at the right-hand side again. By adding d divided by 2 quantity squared, we created a perfect square. So when you get down to this stage, down here, you can just write it as a perfect square, and it always works out. Let's now go to our 4th step. I'll pull this down so we can see it. Our 4th step says to take the square root of both sides and not forget the plus or minus sign. Let's go ahead and let's do that. We'll write down the 4th step is to take the square root. So we have the square root of what's on the left, x plus 3 quantity squared, and the square root of 1 on the right. On the left, this is just x plus 3. And then on the right, the square root of 1 is plus or minus 1. That's where we have to not forget the plus or minus sign. Now we can go ahead and solve our equations. Our first equation is x plus 3 is equal to 1, so that's going to be one solution, or we're going to have another solution, x plus 3 is equal to minus 1. Now let's go back to the left and let's solve that one. We're going to subtract 3 from both sides, and we get x is equal to minus 2. And then on the right, we're also going to subtract 3 from both sides, and we get x is equal to minus 4. And that's our solution. We have x is equal to minus 2 or x is equal to minus 4. Let's do another example similar to this just to make sure that you get the hang of this. Let's now look at our second example. we're going to be solving the equation x squared minus 10x plus 16 is equal to 0, and we're asked to solve it by completing the square. Our first step is to move the constant to the right-hand side, so we'll subtract 16 from both sides of our equation. This gives us x squared minus 10x is equal to minus 16. Our second step is to divide by a if a is not equal to 1. Notice that we have just x squared, so our a is equal to 1. So let's write that this step is not needed. In our next example, we will be doing that step. Step 3 is to just now complete the square. So we're going to write down x squared minus 10x. To complete the square, we're going to take negative 10 and we're going to divide it by 2 and square it. So we're going to add minus 10 divided by 2 and squared. And then on our right-hand side, we have minus 16, and we'll also have to add that same constant because we can't be changing our equation. Now we're going to simplify. We have x squared minus 10x. Minus 10 divided by 2 is minus 5 quantity squared. So we're going to write that as minus 5 squared. Remember, we're not going to square it out. But then on the right-hand side, we are going to square it out. So we're going to get minus 5 squared, which is a 25. Now we can write our left-hand side as a perfect square. So this becomes x minus 5 quantity squared. I want to point out that what went into our parenthesis was an x and a minus 5. And then on our right-hand side, we have minus 16 plus 25, which is just equal to 9. Now we can do our last step, and we're going to solve for x. Let's go ahead and let's take the square root of both sides. So we have x minus 5 squared on the left, and we have the square root of 9 on the right. On the left, we just have x minus 5, and then on the right, we have plus or minus 3. Now it looks very similar to what we just did in our first example. We have two equations. Our first equation is x minus 5 is equal to 3, or we have a second equation, x minus 5 is equal to minus 3. Let's go back to the left. We're going to solve for x, so let's add 5 to both sides, and we get an answer of x is equal to 8. And then on the right, we're also going to add 5 to both sides, and we get an answer of x is equal to 2. We'll put our little or there. And let's go ahead and let's highlight our answers. Our answers are x is equal to 8 or x is equal to 2. Let's now go on to example 3. This is a much harder example. And the reason that it's harder is because we have a 2 in front of the x squared. So this is the case where our a is not equal to 1. Let's start by writing our equation. We have 2x squared plus 16x minus 18 is equal to 0. We're going to start by adding 18 to both sides and getting the constant on the right-hand side. This becomes 2x squared plus 16x is equal to 18. Our second step is going to be to divide each term by a, and our a is equal to 2. So let's divide each term by 2. This gives us 2x squared plus 16x divided by 2 is equal to 18 divided by 2. This gives us x squared plus 8x is equal to 9. Now we can go ahead and go on to step 3, which is to complete the square. Let's write down x squared plus 8x on the left. And then we're going to take our constant 8. Let me highlight that. We're going to divide it by 2 and square it. So this is 8 divided by 2 squared. And then on our right-hand side, we have 9. And then we also have to have 8 divided by 2 quantity squared. Now let's simplify. This is x squared plus 8x plus 8 divided by 2 is 4 squared. And then on our right, we have 9 plus 4 squared, which is 16. On our left, we can write it as a perfect square. This is x plus 4 quantity squared. And then on the right, we have 25. Now our last step is to just solve for x. So we'll take the square root of both sides. And we get an x plus 4 on the left. And on the right, we get plus or minus 5. We'll have two equations. X plus 4 is equal to 5, or we're going to have x plus 4 is equal to minus 5. Now let's solve for x. Let's subtract 4 from both sides, and we get x is equal to 1. And then on the right, we're also going to subtract 4 from both sides, and we get x is equal to minus 9. And we'll put our or here. So our solution is x is equal to 1, or x is equal to minus 9. I have one more example, and this example is more complicated, but I wanted to include it because it has fractions in it. Let's now look at our fourth example. We'll go ahead and write down what we're going to be solving. It's 3x squared plus 4x plus 1 is equal to 0, and we're going to solve this by completing the square. Our first step is to move our constant, which in this case is a 1, to the right-hand side. Let's write this as 3x squared plus 4x is equal to minus 1. Now we're going to divide both sides by our a, and I'm going to highlight what a is. A is 3. We have 3x squared plus 4x divided by 3 is equal to minus 1 over 3. This gives us x squared plus 4 divided by 3x is equal to minus 1 over 3. Now comes the hard part. We're going to complete the square, and we have fractions, but we can do this. We're going to write down x squared plus 4 divided by 3x. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to take our middle term, which is 4 divided by 3. We're going to divide it by 2, and we're going to square it. I'm going to write this, just to make it easier, as 4/3 divided by 2, and we're going to square that. And then our right-hand side is minus 1/3, and we're also going to have to add to this side 4/3 divided by 2 squared. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and let's clean up this fraction. So I'm going to rewrite this as x squared plus 4/3 x. We can see that our 2 goes into our 4 2 times. So this is actually just 2 divided by 3 quantity squared. And then on the right, we're going to write it as 2 squared, which is 4, divided by 3 squared, which is 9. That way we can simplify that fraction a little bit easier. On the left, we can write our expression as a perfect square, and we have x plus 2/3 squared. And then on the right, we're going to have to add these fractions. Let's go ahead and let's get a common denominator of 9. So this makes the minus 1/3 minus 3, and then we have a plus 4. So I'm just going to write here, this is equal to 1 over 9. That wasn't too bad. Now our last step is we're going to take the square root of both sides, and we're going to solve for x. On the left, we're going to have the square root of x plus 2/3 squared. And then on the right, we're going to have the square root of 1 over 9. On the left, we have x plus 2/3. And then on the right, we have plus or minus, and the square root of 1 over 9 is just 1 over 3. We're almost done. Hang with me. We have two equations to solve. We have x plus 2/3 is equal to 1/3, or we have x plus 2/3 is equal to minus 1/3. Now let's turn our attention to the one on the left. Let's subtract 2/3 from both sides. And this is going to give us a solution x is equal to minus 1/3. And then on the right, we're also going to subtract 2/3 from each side. And we end up with x is equal to minus 1. And we'll put an or there. Our final solutions are x is equal to minus 1/3 or x is equal to minus 1. And that's it. I hope that you now feel more comfortable solving quadratics by completing the square.
If this video has been helpful to you, please consider subscribing to my channel. Keep believing in yourself and have a great rest of your day.